But as he reaches the denser air at lower altitude, the control surfaces start to respond. He pulls back hard on the P-38's control yoke.
I pulled so many G's that my canopy window broke out, which was horrifying noise. And I know it sounds like an exaggeration, but I managed to pull out right above this wheat field near the town of Rostock.
With a shattered canopy, it's time for Olds to call it a day.
Now I want to go home. I've had enough.
But a string of tracer fire past his nose brings him back into the fight.
And there was a 109 shooting at me. And I quickly turned hard, thinking, this isn't fair, leave me alone, I'm hurt, all I want to do is go home.
Olds has to make a quick decision. He can increase power, pull ahead, and hope to outrun the German, or he can climb to gain room to maneuver. But a climb could slow him down and give the enemy an easier shot at him. Olds is here in front of the German. Olds goes for the extreme. He flat planes, pulls on the yoke as hard as he can, turns hard left 90 degrees, and shudders into a high-speed stall. It's the air combat equivalent of locking the brakes.
But, and the G-force like that, I slowed down rapidly. He overshot, rolled the wings level, and he was right in front of me, so I pulled the trigger. Down he went.
It's Olds' 5th kill. He's officially an ace. By the end of World War II, Captain Robin Olds tallies 12 kills. During his days fighting over Europe, Olds learns lessons and tactics taught by his squadron commander, the legendary Hub Zemke. Zemke focused the men on the basics, but strongly believed an aggressive spirit was the most valuable asset of a fighter pilot. Now, 23 years later in Vietnam, Olds pilots a jet with speeds 3 times faster than his P-38 and with an arsenal that includes high-tech missiles. His dogfighting skills and leadership will inspire and revitalize the young pilots and instill in them the confidence to wrest control of the skies over North Vietnam.
All the guys loved Robin when he got there. And one reason was he came in and said, this is the way it is. I'm the new guy, but I'm going to give you guys about 2 weeks, and I'm going to be better than any of you. And pointed to every person in that room.
Olds is a maverick and does things his way. He ignores rank and assigns flight leaders by ability.
Things changed for the better. It became a fighter wing.
His pilots are ready for combat, and Olds has picked the target, the Soviet-built MiG-21s. They're taking their toll on American aircraft, and Olds wants revenge. But to destroy the MiGs, Olds must fight them in the air, engage them, and kill them. He devises one of the most ingenious traps in aerial history.
I went to my boss, General Momar, and suggested that the MiGs were getting very frisky, as he knew that I had an idea that we could do something about it.
Olds' plan is simple. Trick the enemy into thinking that his F-4 Phantom fighters are the more vulnerable F-105 Thunderchiefs. When bomb-laden F-105s flew over enemy territory, the MiGs came up and engaged the slower, less agile fighter bombers.
The North Vietnamese Air Force developed a hit-and-run tactic that's akin to guerrilla tactics, where the MiG-21s would come in at low altitude, pop up and try and hit the F-105 strike forces, but then escape before the F-Force could come down and attack them.
The reluctance of the MiG pilots to engage didn't mean they lacked courage or skill. The U.S. estimated that the North Vietnamese only had 16 MiG-21s. They were very careful how they used them. Robin Olds and his Phantoms, by flying like F-105s, using the same approaches, radio frequencies, call signs, and flight patterns, hoped to deceive the North Vietnamese radar operators into ordering the MiG-21s to attack the presumably easy prey. Once in the air, the American fighters would cut down the MiGs. Olds names the plan Operation Bolo, after a lethal Filipino fighting knife. But Olds needed one more trick to complete the ruse. The QRC-160 electronic countermeasures pod jammed enemy radars, decreasing the ability of anti-aircraft guns and surface-to-air missiles to find their targets. The pod was always carried by the Thuds, but had never been fitted to an F-4.
So the North Vietnamese, upon catching their signals, would surely think, well, these are F-105s. It was one more key to the success of Operation Bolo.
So, in a moment's notice, the F-4s were wired to carry a QRC-160 jamming pod and switches installed in the cockpit to activate them. And they luckily had this pod to make the Operation Bolo work.
January 2nd, 1967. Phantoms from Ubon Air Base in Thailand roar off the runway. 7 flights of 4 Phantoms each head toward the MiG airfield surrounding Hanoi. The flights, mimicking the call signs usually given to the F-105s, are named for cars. The first is Olds, the second is Ford, the third is Rambler, followed by Lincoln, Tempest, Plymouth, and Vespa. The fighters depart their home base in Thailand in 5-minute intervals to maximize their time to engage MiGs over the target area. The first Phantoms to reach the target is Olds' flight, led by Colonel Robin Olds. One MiG has already been shot down, knocked out by Olds' number 4 man, Walter Redeker. But more MiG-21s burst through the cloud layer below.
They realized we were not Thuds, and the lead called out, "These are not Thuds, they're Phantoms. What shall we do?" Mass confusion.
The MiG pilots had been trained to follow orders, not react by instinct.
They always had to obey what they were told to do by the ground people. And the ground people were in a tizzy. They didn't know what to do about it.
The North Vietnamese have taken the bait. Olds orders his men to attack. Operation Bolo is about to change the air war in Vietnam. January 2nd, 1967. Colonel Robin Olds and the other 3 F-4 Phantoms of his strike group streak high over the Phuc Yen airfield, emulating a favorite prey of enemy MiGs, the F-105 Thunderchief. In an elaborate bait-and-switch sting, their F-4 fighters carry an arsenal of weapons built for dogfighting. The radar-guided AIM-7E Sparrow missile can strike targets at over 25 miles away, while the heat-seeking AIM-9 Sidewinder can accelerate in seconds to a speed of Mach 2.5, over 3 times faster than most jets. With more bandits scrambling from the airfield below, the dogfights are just heating up. It's time to find out if Olds and his pilots can knock the vaunted MiG-21s out of the sky. First supplied to North Vietnam from Russia in March 1966, the nimble MiG-21 was a vast improvement over the MiG-17 and 19. It had greater speed, higher ceiling, and more advanced weaponry. It could reach speeds of almost 1,400 miles per hour, was armed with a hard-hitting 23mm cannon and 2 K-13A ATOL heat-seeking missiles, a Soviet copy of the American AIM Sidewinder.
MiG-21 at altitude was better than F-4. If you can get him down low, and in a churning battle, he loses energy in high G turns. So you could battle them down low. Dogfight, if you will. But up high, forget it.
The MiG's opponent is the McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom, which entered service in 1960 with the U.S. Navy. The Phantom's 2 turbojet engines deliver a top speed of nearly 1,500 miles per hour. It could strike targets out to 1,200 miles without refueling. Though formidable, it was designed to intercept enemy bombers with missiles, not dogfight.
The weaknesses of the F-4 were it didn't have a gun. The MiGs were real good at employing their gun.
The MiG is more agile than the Phantom above 20,000 feet. It's smaller, harder to spot, and has the important advantage of a gun. But down low, the more powerful Phantom can outturn the MiG-21. The F-4 is faster and has a better rate of climb. It carries a greater number of missiles. The MiG-21s that rise and strike at the masquerading Phantoms on January 2nd are no easy prey.
The MiG pilots, to their credit, were very aggressive, most of them. And it was a great opportunity for us to test our skills.
Olds spots another MiG at 11 o'clock. He breaks left and zeroes in for an easy kill. Olds fires 2 Sparrow missiles. But the missiles lose radar lock and tear past the MiG. Olds sticks with him and fires a heat-seeking AIM-9 Sidewinder missile. But the MiG brakes hard, shakes the missile lock, then dives for cover in the clouds. But as fast as one vanishes, another appears.
Then there was another MiG going 180 degrees to me, fairly close. So close that I couldn't just make a flat turn and get behind him.
Olds must accomplish 2 things. First, he must reverse his direction and get on the MiG's tail. Second, he must create enough distance between himself and the MiG to gain a missile lock. Olds uses a classic dogfighting maneuver he learned in World War II, the vector roll.
I went straight up. When I got up, turned over on my back and hung there for a moment or a few seconds and watched him. And when the time was right, I rolled to my right. Now he was down to my left. So that this roll would take me in a wide, swooping, downward curve, and I wound up right behind him.
Olds exploits the Phantom's powerful thrust and soars above the MiG. To counter the mind-numbing G's, Olds' G-suit inflates, squeezing his calves, thighs, and stomach to keep blood in his brain and prevent a gray out.
I don't think that MiG saw me, no. The one that was going opposite my direction. If he did, he was stupid.
Olds, now in perfect position, his range only 4,500 feet, arms his Sidewinder.
When I came down behind him, I got a wonderful growl, because the Sidewinder looks at the IR signature of an airplane, the heat waves, and it speaks to you. It kind of mumbles. Then if it sees a good heat source, it goes, then you know that your missile is looking at the target. So it's very simple. All you have to do is pull the trigger.
The doomed pilot doesn't eject. Olds has shot down one MiG, but can't stay for more. His number 4 Phantom, flown by Captain Rediker, is in trouble.
One of his tanks didn't feed. I had plenty of fuel. I could have stayed there, but I wanted to get him home.
Olds streaks out of the combat zone and escorts Rediker to safety. In less than 5 minutes, Colonel Robin Olds and his flight have downed 3 MiGs, with no losses. The second wave of 4 Phantoms, Ford Flight, screams in. Operation Bolo has suckered the MiGs into a fight. The deception has done its part. Now the outcome is in the hands of Olds pilots.